Okay, let's talk about completely transforming your study habits. I mean, forget those long, painful hours that just don't seem to pay off. We are about to dive into the methods that actually build lasting knowledge so you can learn so much more in way less time.
You know the feeling, right? We have all been there. You spend an entire night buried in books, you're highlighting, you're rereading, and the next day you feel like none of it actually stuck. It is so frustrating, and it turns out the problem isn't about how hard you're working, it's all about how you're working.
So, let's really diagnose this common problem. It's a cycle that so many of us fall into without even realizing it. You can think of it as the study trap.
This, right here, lays out the two different worlds of studying perfectly. On one side, you've got the trap, focusing on the number of hours you put in, passively rereading your notes, and cramming everything in at the last minute. Now that feels productive, but honestly, it's just an illusion. And on the other side, that's the escape. That's where you shift your focus to methods that actually work, you actively engage your brain, and you build knowledge with small, consistent sessions. The difference isn't just about being efficient, it's about what actually creates long-term memory.
And yep, this is the outcome of that first approach. Just logging more hours with passive techniques doesn't build strong memories. What it does build is frustration and a totally false sense of security. See, your brain isn't just a sponge. You can't just soak up information. You have to actively build the connections yourself.
Okay, so how do we escape this trap? Well, it all starts with a pretty fundamental shift in our thinking. It's all about moving towards a smarter mindset.
This is the core idea, right here. Top students don't study more, they study smarter. The most successful learners, they aren't the ones pulling the most all-nighters. No way. They're the ones who've mastered these efficient, effective techniques that work with their brains, not against them.
So here's the fundamental shift you need to make. Stop looking at the clock. Seriously, stop measuring your progress in hours. Instead, start measuring it by what you actually understand. The real test isn't whether you sat at your desk for 4 hours. The real test is asking yourself, hey, can I explain this concept to someone else without even looking at my notes? That's when you know you've really learned it.
All right, so we've got the mindset down. Now for the fun part. Let's get practical and start building your toolkit for active, smarter studying. Okay, the single most powerful tool in this entire kit is something called active recall. Think of it like this. Rereading your notes is like looking at a map of a city over and over again. Active recall, on the other hand, is like putting that map away and trying to navigate the city from memory. It's definitely harder, but that's the thing that actually builds the strong pathways in your brain.
And you know what? It's surprisingly simple to put into practice. First, you learn the material. Then, and this is absolutely the most important step, you close the book. You look away. Finally, you actively try to recall the information, either by explaining it out loud to yourself or writing down everything you can remember. It's that act of pulling the information out of your brain that forges those really strong memory connections.
And there are some great tools to help you with this. I mean, classic flashcards, they're a perfect form of active recall. Creating mind maps forces you to structure and retrieve information in a visual way. But here's a really powerful one. Constantly ask yourself how this new information connects to things you already understand. When you create that web of knowledge, you're giving yourself more mental hooks to hang the new memory on, which makes it so much harder to forget.
So, having the right tools is one thing, but using them effectively over time, well, that's what truly leads to mastery. This final section is all about making these habits really stick.
Now, this next technique pairs perfectly with active recall. It's called spaced repetition. The idea is that instead of cramming, you review information at strategic, increasing intervals. So maybe you review a concept after 1 day, then maybe 3 days, then a week later. Every time you do that, you're basically telling your brain, hey, this information is important. Don't you dare forget it.
And this is exactly why consistency beats intensity every single time. 20 minutes of focused, active recall every single day is so much more effective than a 4-hour cram session once a week. But why? Because it works with your brain's natural process of consolidating memories while you rest. You're building a strong foundation of knowledge brick by brick instead of trying to throw up a whole wall overnight.
And finally, one of the most overlooked parts of learning. When you're practicing active recall and you get something wrong, don't just get frustrated. Reflect on it. Ask yourself, why did I make that mistake? What was the gap in my understanding? Those mistakes aren't failures. They are literally signposts pointing you directly to what you need to focus on next. They're what accelerate your learning.
So, at the end of the day, remember this. True learning isn't about endurance. It's about strategy. It's about working smarter, not just harder. You now have the mindset, and you've got the toolkit. The only question left is, what's the first thing you're going to choose to learn smarter?